All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a group of drugs that for a long time were seen as these toxic relics of the past. But now, well, they're making a pretty stunning comeback to the front lines of medicine. This is the antibiotic comeback. But before we get to the comeback, we have to start with a question that honestly keeps a lot of scientists and doctors up at night. What actually happens when the drugs we depend on for, well, for everything, just stop working?
And look, this isn't some far-off futuristic problem. It's happening right now. Take a look at this number, 39.9%. That's the percentage of a really dangerous superbug in India that's still susceptible to a key last resort antibiotic. Let that sink in. That means about 60% of these infections, they're already resistant.
And that really sets the stage for our first section, the superbug crisis. The truth is, we are teetering on the edge of what people call a post-antibiotic era, a time where a simple infection could become a life-or-death situation all over again.
But, in this fight, an old hero is stepping out of the shadows. Medicine is reaching back in time, dusting off a forgotten weapon, a really powerful class of antibiotics that were first discovered almost 80 years ago.
And it has been a wild 80-year journey. It all kicked off back in 1944 when streptomycin was found. It was a miracle against tuberculosis. But then, by the 70s, people got worried about its toxicity, and it was pushed aside for newer, supposedly safer drugs. Fast forward to today, and this superbug crisis is forcing a full-on renaissance. So that brings us right to our next part. It's time to get properly introduced to this rediscovered weapon, the aminoglycosides. Okay, so what in the world are they? Well, aminoglycosides are a class of incredibly potent antibiotics. The key thing to know about them is they're bactericidal, which is just a fancy way of saying they don't just slow bacteria down, they flat out kill them. And they do it by going straight for the heart of the operation, the bacterial ribosome, which is basically the tiny factory that builds everything the bacterium needs to live. Now, this is where it gets really cool. The way they work is this incredible four-step kill process called an error catastrophe. Think of it like a special ops mission. First, the drug busts through the bacteria's outer wall. Then it gets super clever and hijacks the cell's own power source to pull itself inside. The third step, this is the kill shot. It sabotages the protein factory, forcing it to churn out garbage proteins. And finally, all that junk protein literally causes the bacteria to self-destruct from the inside. It's brutal and it's fast. And what this all leads to is a really key principle here. It's called a concentration-dependent kill. All that means is the more drug you can hit the bacteria with at once, the higher the peak concentration, the faster and more completely you wipe them out. Now hang on to that thought because it's going to be super important in a minute. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of how you kill a bacteria. And, well, the dark side of this whole error catastrophe thing.
Because all that power, it comes with a pretty hefty price tag. These drugs are a classic double-edged sword. On one side, you have nephrotoxicity. That's serious kidney damage, but it's often reversible. On the other side, though, you have ototoxicity, and that's potentially profound, and this is the scary part, irreversible hearing loss.
I mean, how serious are we talking? Well, get this. The research shows that, quote, a single dose can cause profound, irreversible hearing loss in genetically susceptible individuals. One single dose. Yeah, now you see why doctors were so hesitant to use these for so long. But here's the thing. Today, we know exactly why this happens. It turns out the culprit is a specific genetic mutation that makes some people's cells uniquely vulnerable to the drug. And this is the real game changer. We now have rapid genetic tests that can spot these at-risk patients before they ever get that first dose. It's a massive leap forward. And knowing this has completely flipped the script on how we use these drugs. See, the old way was giving smaller doses every 8 hours. This meant the drug was always in your system, which kept the risk of toxicity high. The new way? One big dose once a day. This gives you that high peak you need for that concentration-dependent kill we talked about, but then it's followed by a long, drug-free period. That gives your body, especially your kidneys, time to recover, which dramatically lowers the risk. So how is that even possible? Why don't the bacteria just grow back during that drug-free time? Well, it all comes down to this amazing little quirk called the post-antibiotic effect, or PAE. It's this wild phenomenon where the drug keeps the bacteria suppressed for hours, even after the levels in your blood have dropped way down. It's like the antibiotic leaves behind this ghost effect that keeps working. And this is the whole point, right? This is our next section, precision over poison. We're learning how to tame this powerful, toxic tool. We're moving from a sledgehammer to a scalpel.
But of course, it's never that easy, is it? Just as we're getting smarter about using these drugs, the bacteria are getting smarter too. They're not just taking it lying down, they're fighting back with their own incredibly sophisticated ways of resisting, like creating these special enzymes that can actually find the antibiotic molecule and destroy it. This table just lays out the arms race perfectly. You've got an older drug like gentamicin on one side and a newer engineered drug plasmamycin on the other. Scientists literally designed plasmamycin with molecular shields to protect it from those resistance enzymes, and it works. But the bacteria have already evolved a new weapon, a different kind of resistance that plasmamycin can't handle. It's a constant back and forth. But our side isn't standing still either. The stuff that's coming down the pipeline is pretty incredible. You've got new drugs like arbecacine, which is showing real promise against the infamous superbug, MRSA. There are these clever new strategies, like basically bribing the bacteria with sugar to trick them into soaking up more of the antibiotic. And my favorite, using tiny nanocarriers that act like guided missiles to deliver the drug right to the infection, sparing the rest of the body. And that's the perfect lead-in to our final section, the next generation. The story here isn't just about bringing old drugs back. It's about outsmarting these evolving superbugs with even smarter medicine. Which really brings us back to the one big, crucial question. Bacteria have been evolving on this planet for billions of years. As they continue that relentless, unstoppable process, can our ingenuity, our creativity, and our science stay just one critical step ahead in this antibiotic arms race? That's the race we're in now.